Almost everyone in the Colorado prison system has heard of Marvin Gale Gray. For years, this powerlifting champion has abused and assaulted fellow inmates thanks to his strength and size. Barry Mills, also known as the Baron, is one of the highest-ranking members of the Aryan Brotherhood who used his influence to control his gang activities in every prison in the country. The United States has several maximum security prisons that house the worst of the worst criminals from across the globe. Let's check out some of their stories. Christopher J. Scarver Sr. Christopher J. Scarver Sr. is widely known for infamy within the walls of the United States prison system. His notoriety stems from the brutal 1994 murders of his fellow inmates Jeffrey Dahmer and Jesse Anderson at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Wisconsin. On the fateful morning of November 28, 1994, Scarver was assigned to a work detail in the gymnasium alongside two other inmates, Jeffrey Dahmer, the infamous serial killer, and Jesse Anderson, a convicted murderer. The trio was left unsupervised by corrections officers, a decision that would prove to be catastrophic. A confrontation erupted, and Scarver, fueled by a deep-seated rage, took matters into his own hands. Scarver retrieved a metal bar from the weight room. With calculated brutality, he bludgeoned Dahmer, delivering fatal blows that ended the life of one of America's most notorious serial killers. He turned his attention to Jesse Anderson, attacking him with a wooden stick in the showers, ensuring that Anderson would not survive the encounter. The murders of Dahmer and Anderson pushed Scarver into the spotlight. While Scarver is known for killing murderers in prison, the next person on our list is known for attacking a snitch. Fotios Freddy Gaius. Fotios Freddy Gaius is a figure whose reputation extends far beyond the prison walls. An associate of the Genovese crime family based in New York City, Gaius is a man whose criminal endeavors have left a lasting impact on the criminal landscape. His notoriety reached new heights with his involvement in the 2018 murder of Winter Hill gang mobster Whitey Bulger. Gaius's ties to organized crime provided him with the resources and connections necessary to orchestrate one of the most high-profile prison murders in recent history. In October 30, 2018, Whitey Bulger was transferred to the United States Penitentiary Hazleton in West Virginia. Within hours of his arrival, Bulger was brutally beaten to death by multiple inmates. The attack was carried out with a sock-wrapped padlock and a shiv weapons that left Bulger's body unrecognizable. His eyes were nearly gouged out, and his tongue was almost cut off. Gaius, along with several other inmates, was implicated in the murder. Bulger's murder was seen as payback for his role as an informant, a betrayal that had long been a stain on his reputation. For Gaius, the murder was an act of revenge, but the next man killed people to make a statement for his brotherhood. Clayton Anthony Fountain. Clayton Anthony Fountain is a figure whose violent legacy has earned him the title of most dangerous prisoner in the federal system. As a member of the Aryan Brotherhood, Fountain's criminal activities and ruthless nature have left an unforgettable mark on the history of American incarceration. Fountain's notoriety is rooted in a series of violent acts that took place while he was serving time at the United States Penitentiary Marion, a facility known for housing some of the most dangerous inmates in the country. Fountain murdered 3 prisoners and 1 correctional officer, each with a shiv, a homemade weapon that became his tool of choice. These acts of violence were not random. They were calculated moves designed to assert his dominance and instill fear in those around him. Despite being confined to one of the highest security prisons in the United States, Fountain's reputation continued to grow as stories of his brutality spread throughout the prison system. His affiliation with the Aryan Brotherhood, a notorious white supremacist gang, only added to his fearsome reputation as it provided him with a network of allies and resources that further bolstered his standing. Fountain wasn't the only member of the Aryan Brotherhood to cement his violent reputation in prison, as you'll see shortly. Barry Mills. Barry Mills, also known as the Baron, is a high-ranking member of the Aryan Brotherhood. He was born in 1948 and grew up in California. Mills's involvement with the Aryan Brotherhood began in the 1970s, while he was serving a prison sentence for armed robbery. He quickly rose through the ranks of the gang, becoming one of its most powerful and feared leaders. In the 1990s and early 2000s, Mills was involved in a series of violent incidents, including murders, assaults, and conspiracies to commit crimes. He was also involved in the gang's extensive narcotics trafficking operations. In 2002, Mills was indicted on federal charges, including murder, conspiracy, and racketeering. He was convicted in 2006 and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Mills is currently serving his sentence at the ADX Florence Supermax prison in Colorado, which is known for housing some of the most violent and high-risk inmates in the federal prison system. His reputation as a ruthless and cunning leader has made him a figure of fascination and fear within the prison system. While Mills is busy running the Aryan Brotherhood, the next person on the list is getting ready of defenders. Rocky Ali Beeman. Rocky Ali Beamon is a name that causes dread within the prison system. Beamon's journey into infamy began with a life sentence for murder, but it was his subsequent actions behind bars that truly defined his terrifying legacy. Beamon's first known prison murder took place on July 5, 2012, when he targeted a fellow inmate, 44-year-old Bruce Hunsicker. He stalked Hunsicker for days, observing his routines and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The attack occurred in the prison showers. Beamon choked Hunsicker and stabbed him more than 80 times with a homemade shank. This act of savagery was not an isolated incident. Beamon's propensity for violence extended to other inmates, particularly those he deemed deserving of his wrath. In May 2018, Beamon penned a letter to Judge Christopher Patterson, in which he chillingly stated that killing sex offenders was the best feeling he had experienced in a long time. Beamon's actions have earned him a reputation as a predator among predators, a man whose presence instills fear in those around him. Beamon goes after sex offenders, but the next dangerous man on our list makes it a habit of abusing fellow inmates. Marvin Gale Gray. Marvin Gale Gray, a name that strikes fear into the hearts of many, is a man whose notoriety extends far beyond the confines of the prison walls. Known for his deviant behavior and incredible strength, Gray's story is one of violence, power, and a chilling disregard for human life. Gray's criminal career is marked by a series of heinous acts that took place both before and during his time in prison. In the 1990s, Gray gained notoriety for his violent behavior, which included the brutal beating and of his 27-year-old cellmate, Gary Hilton, on July 19, 1993. Less than a week later, he committed another similar crime by James Mervyn, an act that led to his transfer to the Colorado State Penitentiary, a special high-security prison where exceptional measures were taken against him. In the early 2000s, Gray was considered the most dangerous prisoner in the state of Colorado, a title that was well earned given his violent history and the chilling confessions he would later make. Gray may have been the most dangerous man in Colorado prison, but the next man on our list dominated Chicago prisons: Lester Harrison. Lester Harrison is a criminal who makes the list of most dangerous men in U.S. prisons. His journey into infamy began in the 1970s, a period during which he terrorized the streets of Chicago, Illinois, in Grant Park, Chicago, where Harrison is believed to have killed between 4 and 6 women from 1970 to 1973. These brutal murders earned him a reputation as a ruthless predator, a man whose capacity for violence knew no bounds. While serving his sentence at the Menard State Penitentiary in Chester, now known as the Menard Correctional Center, Harrison's violent tendencies continued to manifest. On August 10, 1951, he beat to death another inmate, 28-year-old Norman E. Kimmy. Harrison's time in prison was marked by a series of legal battles and medical challenges. In August 1986, his attorney's petition was withdrawn after his spinal cord injury had been healed as a result of therapeutic measures, allowing him to walk on crutches. Despite these challenges, Harrison's reputation as a dangerous and feared inmate remained intact. Harrison went after women, but didn't mind attacking men just like the next prisoner on the list, Lemuel Warren Smith. Lemuel Warren Smith was an American serial killer who was convicted of murdering a woman in New York in 1967. He is also suspected of killing several other women during the 1960s. Smith's killing spree is believed to have begun in the early 1960s with the murder of a woman in New Jersey. Over the next several years, he is suspected of killing at least 4 other women, all of whom were found strangled and mutilated. In 1967, Smith was arrested for the murder of a woman named Janice Wiley, who was found dead in her apartment in Manhattan. Smith was linked to the crime through eyewitness testimony and physical evidence, and he was subsequently convicted of Wiley's murder. Smith was sentenced to life in prison for Wiley's murder. While he was only convicted of one murder, many investigators and experts believe that he was responsible for several other killings during the 1960s. His ability to blend in with society and avoid suspicion has been cited as an example of the banality of evil, a concept coined by philosopher Hannah Arendt to describe the way in which ordinary, unremarkable individuals can be capable of extraordinary evil. While Smith primarily went after women, the next criminal on our list targeted homeless men: Joseph Martin Danks. Joseph Martin Danks, infamously known as the Koreatown Slasher, is a violent criminal whose killing spree has left a lasting impact in Los Angeles. Danks's journey into crime began in January 1987 when he embarked on a killing spree that would leave 6 homeless men dead in Los Angeles' Koreatown neighborhood. Danks's actions during this period were marked by a level of savagery that shocked the community and left authorities scrambling to bring him to justice. His choice of victims, homeless men living on the fringes of society, reflected his predatory nature and his willingness to exploit the vulnerabilities of those around him. On September 21, 1990, Danks's violent tendencies resurfaced within the confines of the prison system. He attracted the attention of a prison guard by claiming that he had killed his cellmate. Danks stated that he had strangled Holt with a rope made from a sheet late at night, just 3 hours after he had been placed in his cell and Holt had fallen asleep. Danks expressed no remorse for his actions, claiming that he was doing God's work when he killed the elderly man. Danks went after homeless men, but the next criminal on our list went after offenders: Christopher David Luntz. Christopher David Luntz's actions have carved a path of fear and violence within the United States prison system. Known for his brutal crimes and self-proclaimed mission against pedophiles and offenders, Luntz's story is one of ruthless sense of justice. His journey into notoriety began with the murder of his father in Palm Harbor, Florida in 2003, a crime that would set the stage for his later actions behind bars. Convicted and sentenced to life for the murder of his father, Luntz's time in prison has been characterized by his self-admitted role as a serial killer of pedophiles and offenders. On September 21, 2009, Luntz's violent tendencies came to the forefront once again. He threatened another inmate with a shank and held him hostage, a move that demonstrated his willingness to use violence as a means of control. Prison guards eventually convinced him to calm down, and when they entered his cell, they discovered that his 46-year-old cellmate, a convicted child molester named Nathaniel Taylor, had been stabbed to death by Luntz. While Luntz is on a twisted quest for justice, the next person kills because it's fun: James Gerald Kodatich. James Gerald Kodatich is a notorious criminal who continues to terrorize his prison to this day. Kodatich's notoriety began to take shape on September 4, 1973, during his incarceration. It was on this day that he committed a brutal act of violence, fatally stabbing fellow inmate Jerry Kent Barber. Barber, who was serving a 12-year sentence for kidnapping, became a victim of Kodatich's unrestrained aggression. It reflected Kodatich's violent tendencies that would later define his criminal career. Fast forward to late 1982, and Kodatich's reign of terror escalated to a horrifying new level. In a span of just 2 weeks, he kidnapped and murdered 2 young women in Morris County, New Jersey. Despite the gravity of his crimes, Kodatich's story did not end with his conviction. In 2011, he made an audacious attempt to alter his circumstances by contacting the New Jersey Department of Corrections. His request was to be relocated to a prison in Illinois to allegedly be closer to his family. However, this plea was met with firm resistance. Kodatich isn't the only one who stabbed an inmate for no apparent reason, as you'll see in our next case: Kevin Bellinger. Kevin Bellinger is a federal inmate whose actions have left a permanent mark on the U.S. penitentiary Hazleton in Brewston Mills. His story is one of calculated violence and cold-blooded murder. Bellinger's notoriety stems from a brutal event that occurred on October 7, 2007, when he orchestrated a deadly attack on fellow inmate Jesse Harris. This was a meticulously planned assault carried out with the assistance of another inmate, Patrick Andrews. On that fateful day, Bellinger and Andrews executed their plan with precision, using homemade knives to stab Jesse Harris to death. The attack was swift and merciless, leaving Harris with no chance of survival. The motive behind this orchestrated murder remains shrouded in mystery, but the brutality of the act speaks volumes about the dangerous nature of those involved. The aftermath of this heinous crime saw Bellinger facing the full weight of the law. In August 2017, a jury found him guilty of murder by a federal prisoner serving a life sentence and second-degree murder in a federal facility. While no one knows why Bellinger killed Harris, the next prisoner on our list killed in an escape attempt: Bruce Allen Davis. Bruce Allen Davis is an American serial killer whose criminal exploits have left a trail of devastation across the country. Davis's criminal career began in the early 1970s, and over the next decade, he was convicted of killing 3 people in Illinois and the District of Columbia. However, the true extent of his murderous rampage was revealed when he confessed to 30 additional murders committed across the United States. Davis's notoriety was further cemented by his audacious escape attempt on October 24, 1982. In a daring bid for freedom, he meticulously planned and executed an escape from the Menard Correctional Center in Chester, Illinois. Armed with nothing but a makeshift plan, Davis cut a hole in the prison fence, breaking through the barriers that held him captive. His escape, however, was not without bloodshed. In a brutal act of violence, he used an axe to kill 52-year-old Joseph Cushman, a warden, before stealing his truck and making a temporary bid for freedom. Davis was eventually apprehended and brought to justice, facing the full weight of the law for his crimes. Davis made his escape alone, but the next prisoner on our list escaped with 6 others: Randy Halprin. Randy Halprin is a former member of the notorious group known as the Texas Seven. This gang of prisoners orchestrated one of the most daring and violent prison escapes in American history. Halprin's involvement with this group marked him as a key player in a series of events that would lead to tragedy and a nationwide manhunt. The escape took place in December 2000, when Halprin and 6 other inmates broke free from a South Texas prison, setting off a chain of events that would culminate in the murder of a police officer. The Texas Seven escape was meticulously planned and executed with precision. The group overpowered prison guards, stole firearms, and commandeered a prison vehicle to make their getaway. As they fled, the group embarked on a crime spree, robbing stores and amassing weapons, leaving a trail of chaos in their wake. The most heinous act committed by the Texas Seven occurred on Christmas Eve 2000, when they encountered 29-year-old Irving police officer Aubrey Hawkins. Hawkins was responding to a robbery at a sporting goods store when he was ambushed by the group. In a brutal and senseless act of violence, Hawkins was shot 11 times, resulting in his tragic death. While Halprin killed a police officer, the next criminal on this list took out his fellow inmate, Jorge D. Negrete Larios. Jorge D. Negrete Larios, a name that echoes within the walls of Calipatria State Prison, is known for violence and chaos that can erupt even in the most secure environments. His notoriety can be traced to a brutal attack that took place within the prison. Negrete Larios, along with 2 other inmates, allegedly attacked and killed fellow inmate Alberto Martinez. The staff, trained to respond to such incidents, acted swiftly to quell the violence. Utilizing pepper spray and a baton strike, they managed to subdue the 3 suspects, bringing the chaotic scene under control. The quick response by the staff prevented further escalation and potential loss of life. Negrete Larios's presence in Calipatria State Prison is the result of a series of violent offenses that have marked his criminal career. He was received into state prison from Riverside County on July 5, 2016, after being sentenced to 32 years and 4 months. His convictions include attempted second-degree murder with enhancements for inflicting great bodily injury, discharge of a firearm, and street gang activity in the commission of a violent felony. Unfortunately, Negrete Larios isn't the only one who ambushed a fellow prisoner on his way back to the cell. Patrick Franklin Andrews. Patrick Franklin Andrews is an American criminal whose actions have left an unforgettable mark on the U.S. penitentiary Hazleton in Hazleton, West Virginia. Between 1997 and 2007, Andrews was responsible for the deaths of 3 individuals. The most notorious of Andrews's crimes occurred on October 7, 2007, when he, along with fellow inmate Kevin Bellinger, orchestrated the brutal murder of Jesse Harris. As Harris was returning to his cell, he was ambushed by Andrews and Bellinger, who used homemade shanks to stab him 20 times. The ferocity of the attack left Harris with no chance of survival, marking a dark day in the history of the penitentiary. In the aftermath of the murder, Andrews and Bellinger faced the full weight of the law. On October 2, 2012, they were indicted on charges of second-degree murder and murder by a federal prisoner serving a life sentence. The legal proceedings that followed were a reflection of the tireless efforts of law enforcement and the judicial system to hold those responsible accountable for their actions. While Andrews' motives were never fully discovered, the next criminal killed to get the attention of the authorities: James Elliott. James Elliott is a prisoner whose actions have drawn significant attention and controversy. His notoriety can be traced to a brutal attack that occurred on March 28, 2017, when he committed a shocking act of violence against fellow inmate Donald Harvey. Harvey, known as the Angel of Death, was a notorious serial killer himself, responsible for the deaths of numerous hospital patients. Elliott launched a vicious attack on Harvey, beating him severely and ultimately stabbing him. The assault was so brutal that it led to Harvey's death, marking a violent end to the life of a man who had caused so much suffering to others. Elliott's motives for the attack were both personal and strategic. He claimed that his actions were a desperate attempt to get the attention of prison officials, driven by his dissatisfaction with the food being served at the institution. Elliott also stated that by murdering a well-known serial killer like Harvey, he believed he could do something constructive for the friends and neighbors he had wronged in the past. In his mind, this act of violence was a way to atone for his previous misdeeds. While Elliott killed to get the attention of the authorities, the next prisoner on our list took credit for over 34,000 deaths: Joaquin Archivaldo Guzman Loera. Joaquin Archivaldo Guzman Loera, widely known as El Chapo, is basically the biggest boss of the drug trade who is still alive today. As a former leader within the Sinaloa cartel, Guzman orchestrated a vast network of drug trafficking operations that spanned continents, leaving a trail of violence and destruction in his wake. His criminal activities are believed to be responsible for the deaths of over 34,000 people. Guzman's rise to power within the Sinaloa cartel was marked by ruthless ambition and strategic acumen. He wielded influence with an iron fist, trust, ensuring loyalty through fear and financial incentives. His ability to evade capture and maintain control over his empire became legendary, earning him a reputation as one of the most elusive and dangerous criminals in modern history. One of the most audacious aspects of Guzman's criminal career was his ability to escape from high-security prisons. His escape plans were meticulously crafted, involving intricate tunnels and the corruption of prison officials. Guzman wielded influence over almost everyone in the prison, including the facility's director, ensuring that his plans were executed with precision. Guzman may have ordered the hits on most of the people who died during his reign, but the next criminal did all the killings himself. Cuauhtémoc Henrique Pereira. Cuauhtémoc Henrique Pereira is a criminal whose actions have left a profound impact on the communities he terrorized. His criminal history is marked by acts of extreme violence, beginning with a chilling robbery that escalated into a massacre. Pereira's notoriety stems from a heinous crime committed at a Popeyes restaurant in East Gadsden. During the robbery, Pereira stole over $2,100. After securing the money, he led 4 employees into a freezer. In a cold-blooded act of violence that led to their death, Pereira shot all 4 employees, leaving no witnesses to his crime. Pereira's violent tendencies did not end with the Popeyes massacre. On December 11, 1999, while incarcerated at an Alabama prison, he committed another murder, this time targeting a fellow inmate. This act of violence further solidified his reputation as a dangerous and unpredictable individual, one whose presence posed a significant threat to both inmates and prison staff. In October 2001, he was sentenced to death for his actions and remains on death row. While Pereira killed a fellow inmate while in prison, the last criminal on our list killed an officer, Billy Joel Tracy. Billy Joel Tracy is a Texas prison inmate whose actions have left a permanent scar on the correctional system. He is known for a brutal incident that occurred on July 15, 2015, a day that marked a tragic loss for the Barry Telford unit in Texas. On that fateful day, Tracy was being escorted back to his one-man cell after an hour of recreation by Correctional Officer Timothy Davison. As Davison escorted Tracy, the inmate managed to escape his handcuffs. Once free, Tracy launched a vicious attack on Davison, using his fists to pummel the officer. The assault escalated as Tracy grabbed Davison's slot bar. In a frenzied display of brutality, Tracy struck Davison repeatedly, inflicting fatal injuries and death. In November 2017, a Bowie County jury found Billy Joel Tracy guilty of capital murder. The jury's decision was unanimous, and 102nd District Judge Bobby Lockhart sentenced Tracy to death. Despite the overwhelming evidence against him, Tracy sought a new trial, hoping to overturn his conviction. However, his efforts were in vain. The Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, in a unanimous decision, denied his request for a new trial, affirming the original verdict and sentence. Thanks for watching. Check out more cards on the screen.